Let's start with the exterior structures of the brain, and we'll start with the superior and work our way down. So the bumps are gyri, and the grooves are sulci, or one would be called a sulcus. The very deep grooves would be fissures. This is the longitudinal fissure. It separates left and right. The transverse cerebral fissure we have back here. It separates the cerebrum from the cerebellum. Sulcus that's of note here. We have the central sulcus along here, and it separates the frontal lobe from the parietal lobe. So while we're doing lobes, we'll just finish the lobes here. We'll do frontal, parietal, temporal, along here, back to occipital. So the inferior structures here, we have olfactory bulbs, olfactory tracts. Further down in here, you have the optic nerves, which come together at a little X, which is the Greek letter chi. So you have the optic chiasma, the optic tracts, which move posterior. Also back in here, which you may not be able to see on the video, are the mammillary bodies. Medial and sort of inferior to the optic chiasma. So now we're going to move into the brain stem, and we're going to go from inferior to superior into the diencephalon. So down here you have the medulla oblongata, and there went my cerebellum. Okay, then you have the pons and cerebral pedicles. We're going to go open. Cerebral pedicles along here. So while we're in the midbrain, we're going to do corpora quadrigemina, which is back here, and it can be further broken down into superior and inferior colliculum. The fornix here, the corpus callosum here, the septum pellucidum, and the ventricles I'm going to show you on the sheep, which may be a little tricky. Okay, we're going to try. So here you have the sheep brain. I'm going to try and get a little closer here. Okay, so we have sheep brain. So ventricles, we're going to do first ventricle, and on this side here, this membrane, you can see the septum pellucidum. Down into the third ventricle, this is the cerebral aqueduct, which empties out into the fourth ventricle here. So while we've got the sheep brain, we can move into the thalamus. And on this one, you can see pretty clearly is the interthalamic adhesion. Hypothalamus, remember hypo just means below the thalamus. Then I'm going to switch back over to the model real quick. So here we're at the thalamus. The pineal gland is over here, back here. And we can sort of stick on this cerebellum. So the white matter in the cerebellum is the arborvitae, and the outside part of the cerebellum is the cerebellar cortex. The vermis is this medial structure in the middle. Well, you can't see it great there, but it's there. Okay. So for the cranial nerves, I'm going to take the midbrain out. So on these models, the cranial nerves are more or less superior to inferior. Nerve number 1, of course, we have olfactory, is right here. 1, olfactory. We have 2, optic. 3 on this model comes from the very medial part of the midbrain. So we have 1, 2, 3. Down here. 3, which is oculomotor. So we have olfactory, optic, oculomotor. 4 is trochlear, and on a lot of these models, it's quite posterior. Back here, there's 4, trochlear. Then we move back, anterior. Now we're on the pons, and we get our trigeminal, which is 5. So the next 3, 6, 7, and 8 are more or less medial to lateral. So we get 6, 7, 8. Abducens, facial, vestibular, cochlear. So then along the medulla, we have we're going to start from superior and descend again for 9, 10, 11. So we have 9, 10, and 11. So that's glossopharyngeal, vagus, and accessory or spinal accessory. On the side here, you can see the differences in coloring. So there you have 9, 10, 11, glossopharyngeal, vagus, spinal accessory. And finally, we have more medial, nerve 12, which is hypoglossal.